Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another legal breaking reporting and video analysis update. It is Sunday, December 7, 2025. Let's get into our morning report by NPR. Before we begin, ladies and gentlemen, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and enjoy.
This message comes from Vital Farms, who works with small American farms to bring you pasture-raised eggs. Click the play button to hear from pasture-raised egg farmer Tanner Pace, who shares the sights and sounds he and his hens experience on the rolling hills of his family farm in southern Missouri.
It's the epicenter of suffering in the world right now. That's how the UN's top humanitarian and emergency relief official, Tom Fletcher, described the situation in Darfur. The region in Sudan has recently witnessed some of the worst violence of the country's civil war. The conflict is now in its third year, with tens of thousands killed and millions displaced by the fighting. Tom Fletcher recently visited Darfur and joins us now in studio. Welcome to the program.
Many thanks, Ayesha. Thanks for having me on.
So, Tom, what did you see and hear on the ground?
It's a horror show. And I had a week inside Darfur, and you're going through checkpoint after checkpoint manned by child soldiers. You're meeting people who are starving, who've been displaced many times, victims of sexual violence, victims of horrible torture, brutality. I met one lady who'd escaped from El Fasher. She'd seen her own child killed in front of her husband killed in front of her. She'd gone next door to her neighbors who were all killed in front of her, and she'd scooped up the one survivor, a 2-month-old malnourished kid. She'd walked miles and miles to escape, and on the way, she'd been gang raped, she'd had her leg broken, but somehow she'd got to us, and we were looking after her. We were saving that child's life, and we were trying to help them turn the corner. But that's just one story among thousands.
It's just horrific. You said, that aid agencies were trying to help in that situation you described. Are people there getting the aid that they desperately need?
Well, we're there on the ground, and we're saving as many lives as we can, but we're only 32% funded. So we are making these brutal life and death choices every day about which lives to save. Literally, which projects to cut, which projects to keep. So we're doing our best. We're getting particularly food in, which is so vital right now. Trying to get medicine in, trying to stand up some of the essential health services. But we're overwhelmed because we're dealing with hundreds of thousands of people escaping. And that's just from El Fasher alone, let alone across the whole of Sudan, where the needs are enormous.
There's been widespread reports of massacres in the city of El Fasher. They were allegedly carried out by the Rapid Support Forces, or RSF, a paramilitary force fighting against the government. The RSF claims it's investigating the massacres, but do we know how many people were killed?
So we don't for sure at the moment. And I was in Tawila and Korma, the two towns very close to Al Fasher, so I spent time with survivors. The reality at the moment is that Al Fasher, as we've seen from the satellite footage, is a crime scene right now. So we're looking to get teams in. Alongside our humanitarians, there'll be teams of investigators going in to try to piece together what's happened and to try to push for accountability. We've got to have people held to account for this crime, but then also we're working on the ground to stop the next atrocity, to try and make sure that civilians elsewhere don't have to suffer the same abuses.
Well, how do you do that?
Very difficult to do, particularly as, we're not going in with guns and sort of peacekeeping forces. We're going in as humanitarians with aid. But part of the solution is to get our people in there. The UN isn't a ship that was built to stay in the harbor. We should be close to where people are suffering and try to prevent more atrocities. But then we need the world to act. We need the Security Council to wake up. We need the great powers of the world to basically say, let's stop arming this conflict. The last thing that Darfur needs right now, that Sudan needs right now, is more guns and bullets. They need food and medicine.
Well, why do you think this conflict hasn't received more international attention from world leaders?
Well, that is the million-dollar question. Maybe the billion-dollar question, actually. I think it's partly that people are distracted. There's apathy. People are anxious about their own lives, understandably. We're going through a tough economic situation in the world right now. I think social media plays a part. It's shortened our attention spans. It's made it harder to focus on the suffering of people on the other side of the world. There are obviously multiple crises as well. We're also dealing with Gaza. We're dealing with the Democratic Republic of Congo, with Myanmar, with Haiti, with so many of these horrific crises globally. And I think there's a lot of disinformation out there. People are being told, we shouldn't have to care about the suffering on the other side of the world. But actually the reality is we do, because unless we get out there and deal with these massive crises at source, then these problems are coming in our direction too.
And when you say they're coming in our direction, how so?
Because unless you basically respond to these humanitarian crises with generosity and solidarity, then actually you can't put a wall around a pandemic. You can't put a wall around millions of people who will flee from conflict and climate crisis. You can't put a wall around the economic inequality which will spread from these epicenters of violence and suffering. The world is tough right now. It's a brutal period of indifference and apathy. And, we're out there on the front lines seeing that. I think I'm the only person in the world this year to go to Gaza twice, to Darfur twice, to Kupiansk on the front lines of the Russia-Ukraine war, to Goma in eastern DRC where the fighting is raging. I get to see the worst of inhumanity, I'm afraid, but I also see the best of humanity in the people who are out there responding. And we need that outpouring of generosity. I refuse to believe that people have lost that sense of human solidarity and generosity.
That's Tom Fletcher, the UN's top humanitarian and emergency relief official. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Ayesha.
Often shows up on list of most stressful occupations. And recent events haven't made things any easier. The government shutdown, when air traffic controllers missed 2 full paychecks, tragic plane crashes and near misses, and chronic understaffing. The Federal Aviation Administration is short more than 3,000 controllers nationwide. So what's the job really like? Emily Hanoka worked for the Federal Aviation Administration for nearly a decade, most recently at Reagan Washington National Airport. She left in June. She joins us now from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Emily, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You stuck with this job for more than 9 years. What did you like about being an air traffic controller?
Every day was different, and the pace was always extremely fast. And that was something I really enjoyed. I left work, and I could leave work behind me. And every day that I plugged in, every hour that I plugged in, the equation was different. And that was really exciting to me.
So what was the hardest part of the job?
The schedule. The schedule was definitely the hardest part. I think managing the schedule, managing home, and the hardest part was really just getting to work and being focused, being rested. Every shift meant that I was sacrificing time with my family. If I worked during the day, I usually left for work before anybody in my household was even awake. If I worked a night shift, obviously I'm missing bedtime with my 3 kids. I'm coming home and everybody's already asleep. So every single shift for pretty much every controller, you're sacrificing some major aspect of family time.
I mentioned that you left in June. Why did you leave?
I loved being an air traffic controller, but the sacrifice with my family, we couldn't rationalize that anymore.
You were at DCA, though, in January when there was that American Airlines crash. That must have been hard. Did it change the job for you?
It absolutely changed it for me. I was not on schedule that evening. I worked a day shift the day of the crash, and I worked the following morning. But it really did change a lot from my perspective. It was really hard. A lot of controllers that were on the shift when the accident happened, I don't expect they'll ever return to air traffic.
You hear a lot from regulators and from different lawmakers about how the different systems at the airports need to be updated. They need to be modernized. What was your view on that? How did that affect you?
Yeah, so I had the privilege of working at 3 FAA facilities, and those 3 FAA facilities had varying degrees of technology. I started my career in Jackson, Mississippi, and the technology we were using there was incredibly antiquated. We got a technology upgrade in 2019 there to a radar system that when I went to my second facility, they had had since the early 1990s. So technology is very, very slow to implement across all of the facilities within the national airspace system.
There's been a lot of news, or a lot in the news, about understaffing at the FAA. How does that impact air traffic controllers?
It makes it more stressful. We also, I think, as a profession, have this sense of responsibility for the airspace. But for the past 10 years, when I got in the FAA in 2015, it's always been a staffing crisis. Staffing has not gotten any better in the 10 years since I've been a part of it. Controllers are taking on more and unfortunately not getting much out of it.
With the staffing shortages, what do you think could be done to get more people wanting to get into the industry?
I think there's a pretty good amount of people that want to join the workforce. The problem is how we onboard people. It's a slower process. The FAA Academy in Oklahoma City can only take on so many controllers and train them per year before they go to FAA facilities for live training. I think what could be done, though, is maintaining the controllers that are currently operational. I think now I've seen more people walk away than ever before, particularly people with my level of experience. About a decade, people halfway through their careers are walking away.
I imagine that you fly on occasion with your family. Do you feel like it remains a safe way to travel, or it will remain a safe way to travel if changes aren't made?
Oh, I absolutely believe that it is a safe way to travel. I stand behind getting on a plane every single day. The FAA does a great job of saying, hey, this facility does not quite have the staffing, and instead of making those controllers work more aircraft, they slow the equation down.
That's Emily Hanoka. She's a former air traffic controller. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you.
This message comes from Dignity Memorial and Memphis Funeral Home, one of their nationwide providers. When Bill Muir's wife Barbara passed away earlier this year, he knew he wanted a celebration of life that captured everything that made her unique. Click the play button to hear Bill's conversation with funeral director Mike Perry and learn about the details in her celebration that brought joy to her family and friends.
Line for millions of Americans 65 and older to choose Medicare options for the upcoming year. For many, the choice is between traditional Medicare and Medicare Advantage, where the federal government lets private companies manage the coverage. As the Midwest newsroom's Macy Byers reports, Medicare Advantage plans can come with some risk.
When Americans turn 65, they typically enroll in Medicare. Choosing the best coverage option can be complicated, with options of supplementary coverage, drug prices, and private plans. Independent insurance agent Rick Cuttaford works with Nebraska-based Saving Seniors Money, one group that helps seniors compare traditional Medicare versus a private Medicare Advantage plan.
We don't push people one way or the other. Our job is to educate people about both options, and then whatever they are comfortable with, we go with for their coverage.
Traditional Medicare supplement coverage, often called Medigap, has premiums that can range from about $30 to well over $600 a month. Advantage plans often come with extra benefits like dental or vision, but their most enticing selling point is low-cost monthly premiums. This year, more than half of Medicare beneficiaries, nearly 36 million people, are enrolled in a Medicare Advantage plan, according to the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. Jeremy Nordquist, president of the Nebraska Hospital Association, says Advantage plans have provider networks, copays, and may require approval before covering a medical service. That can leave patients waiting for care or filling hospital beds that other patients could use.
If you don't think you're going to need health care, great, fine, but very few seniors are healthy enough to avoid that, so they need to know these challenges up front.
Ivan Mitchell is the CEO of Great Plains Health in central Nebraska. He says there are too many claim denials with Advantage plans, and doctors can spend more time on the phone with insurers than helping patients. Great Plains Health stopped accepting Medicare Advantage last January.
There are about 400 members that if they call for an appointment, we do not see them. We will not schedule an appointment with them. They have to go somewhere else for care.
Great Plains Health isn't alone. According to the trade publication Becker's Hospital Review, 40 health systems in the U.S. have decided to drop at least one Medicare Advantage plan this year. The federal government pays Advantage plan companies per enrollee each month to distribute their benefits. The nonpartisan Medicare Payment Advisory Commission estimates those payments added $84 billion to this year's total Medicare expenditures. That extra amount frustrates critics like Mitchell.
We basically raided the Medicare Trust Fund with these for-profit insurance companies that, in my opinion, have been extremely unethical in what they've done.
Unethical behavior that he says includes insurance companies underpaying health systems like his or causing them to lose money through extra administrative work caused by claim issues. Nonprofit advocacy group Better Medicare Alliance believes Medicare Advantage can offer more value and choice to seniors. CEO Mary Beth Donahue says the insurance industry has told the Trump administration they will take steps to streamline the claims process.
We see that any kind of delay is unacceptable, and so there are new rules and an industry commitment that they've made to the administration to speed up the decisions.
Meanwhile, bipartisan bills have been introduced in Congress calling for more transparency in the Medicare Advantage program. They aim to help seniors the next time they make their health coverage decisions. For NPR News, I'm Macy Byers in Lincoln, Nebraska.
Waymo's self-driving cars seem to be going their own way lately. Some of them have been seen abruptly shifting lanes, taking illegal U-turns, and making risky maneuvers to get passengers where they're going. It's all because of a change in programming to make the vehicles confidently assertive, according to the company. Katie Bindley is a tech reporter for the Wall Street Journal. She's written about the changes in how Waymo has been operating, and she joins us now. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
So first off, can you tell us a bit about Waymo? What did their cars used to drive like until recently?
Early on, they were just so deferential is really the word that comes to mind, or polite. An example I like to give people to help illustrate this is, you arrive at a four-way stop, and it's a tie, and it's kind of usually whoever the more assertive driver is goes. People obviously, they don't always default to the car on the right going, and Waymos were like a surefire. They will always let you go.
But it sounds like these self-driving cars have started acting more human and, impatient and get me around here. How have people described their recent experiences in Waymos?
Yeah, they're more confident, and they are absolutely driving, or some of them at least, are driving more the way that a human would. So if you come to a stop these days with a Waymo in San Francisco, if the Waymo beats you, the Waymo's going to go, or is more likely to go than it previously would have. They've been observed not signaling before changing lanes. What else? Let's see. Oh, well, there was this illegal U-turn down in San Bruno. I spoke with a police sergeant who was out on patrol one night, and they were looking for drunk drivers, and a Waymo pulled a U-turn, and they looked up, and there was a no U-turn sign. So they pulled the Waymo over, which obviously is just kind of humorous in and of itself. There's no person, but the window rolled down, and then an operator apparently came on the speaker and apologized profusely and said that they were going to look into it.
Well, that is interesting though, because the police can't really give a ticket to a driverless car, right?
In California, they cannot, but that law is set to change. So apparently they will, in the future, be able to ticket driverless cars.
So you reached out to Waymo. What did they have to say about this change in their car's behavior?
They were clear that Waymos are designed to respect the rules of the road. There's no intentional, make the Waymos bend rules or anything like that. But they have intentionally made the Waymos, as they put it, more confidently assertive. And I spoke with a senior director of product management over there, and he explained that if the cars are too passive, that actually can be disruptive to traffic.
Well, how does Waymo's safety record overall compare to human drivers?
According to the company, compared with human drivers, Waymos have had 91% fewer crashes involving a serious injury or worse. So they have, according to them, a strong safety record. And, I think it's fair to consider how people drive, and especially in the age of distraction. I mean, I've lost count to the number of times I'm behind someone and I can see that their eyes are down on their phone, or you pull up next to someone and you can see that they're texting and not paying any attention. Some people have told me that they prefer a Waymo because they're not worried that the Waymo is going to be distracted. So it makes sense that people would feel quite comfortable with them in some senses.
That's Katie Bindley of the Wall Street Journal. Thank you so much for speaking with us.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate your interest in the story and having me on.